So on June 17th, I have recorded a video talking about the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, which I stupidly put a C instead of a K. I do want to clarify a couple of things, and I also want to pinpoint out some of the comments I got. I did get some traffic, but I don't think I'm going to get any more, so I might as well just accept my losses or whatever and just try to improve on what I said. So let's just get right into it. First of all, I want to make an apology for misinformation because I said that this collection was including Mortal Kombat Special Forces and Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. I have no idea why I thought that. My conversations with Mr. Machiavelli on Discord has probably assumed that it was going to be included, but it was not. And when I saw the actual list of games that were being included, I just got the biggest fucking headache I've conjured, and it would have to take an Excedrin just to cure it. Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 are essentially getting a lot more priority. I'll explain that in a second. But all three games, or at least including the arcade versions and the Super Nintendo version. Now, even as someone who did grow up with the Super Nintendo ports of these games, it's pretty bad that even both of these versions are shafted in terms of home ports. Like, there clearly was a Game Boy port of Mortal Kombat 3, and there also clearly were Sega Master System ports of the original Mortal Kombat trilogy. Now, I know they're certainly not the prettiest girl at the dance, but I like to think that they would at least include the Sega Master System version for one reason and one reason only. I don't know what the hell reason I could possibly think of besides it, being that the resolution is slightly better than the Game Gear version. Also, the lack of home ports of Mortal Kombat 4 is absolutely disgusting. I'm not entirely sure what version of Mortal Kombat 4 they could use as the basis. I highly doubt they could use the Nintendo 64 version because Nintendo. But I also know that there was also a Game Boy Color port that was made for Mortal Kombat 4, which is essentially a reused asset version of what Mortal Kombat 3 was back in the day. And yes, From Software fanboys, reused assets were not mutually exclusive to From Software. Games reuse assets all the time. It's just not as obnoxious as Big Daddy Dom Hidetaka Miyazaki makes it out to be in your precious perfect battle royale that is Night Rain. And let's not even get into the fact that they're also including Mortal Kombat Advance and the two ports of Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance on the Game Boy Advance. Now, I have something to say about Mortal Kombat Advance, actually. We're going to turn this into a story time segment. Back when I was relatively getting into the Game Boy Advance emulation scene, and using sites like DGEMU, because back then it certainly was not as easy to obtain ROMs, I guess, unless you served like a deep dark web, I guess. This website actually requires not only log in to download ROMs, but there's also a limit as to what ROMs you can download. One of the games I was very curious about was Mortal Kombat Advance. And my god, this game is just a piece of shit. This game is essentially a watered-down version of Ultra Mortal Kombat 3 on Super Nintendo, which was already kind of a piece of shit. Love or hate Ultra Mortal Kombat 3 for whatever reason. It's been well known that Ultra Mortal Kombat 3, despite having additions like Playable, Rain, and Noob Saibot, removed Shiva. They make it so that in the Super Nintendo version, they remove the announcer almost completely, which makes no sense. And it also has that glaring issue of omitting things that were not even omitted to begin with. And Mortal Kombat Advance, look, you can just watch AliRx's classical review of that shit. I don't think I really need to explain any further than that. That's like the one video that the dude is probably known for, besides maybe his Transformers Famicom review. To give the benefit of the doubt to this, I'm going to assume that these were included just to be a teaser as a sign of what's to come, because I've seen a couple videos, basically people saying that they really want the 3D era to be represented in this Legacy Collection. I highly doubt that, because NetherRealm is known to tease the 3D era but never actually use it. And yes, I know I said never soft in my original video. I'm retarded. But we all make mistakes, and there's also huge, colossal fuck-ups. Mistakes were made. Anyway, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance on Game Boy Advance, at least the original version, was pretty terrible. It only had a handful of characters from the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube versions. Barely any arenas to fight in. Yes, it was interesting from a technical level, but I don't think people were that excited to play essentially an objectively watered-down version of the game on the go. And I know that there were some games back during the golden years of gaming, or whatever the fuck people want to call it, that sometimes the handheld version was sometimes or maybe even marginally better than the main version, but that's not the case with this game. It's just a watered-down version of a game that exploded in popularity, but ultimately decisive because 2D arcade era bullshit. Now, Tournament Edition is a little bit better. It has significantly more characters. They took out some for whatever reason, and even if you use the Link mode, it's just fucking retarded. You have a tag mode, and it actually adds characters that were not in the main version, with it being Noob Saibot, which is essentially a reskinned Scorpion, but whatever. You got Sector. I would use the reskin comment, but that's not even true. And even Serena, which was a character from Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, and is why she appears in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. And you got not one type of currency, but 2 currencies. Ooh! Yeah, real fucking impressive. Technically, it's a bit of an improvement, but the omissions of the roster really make no fucking sense. Now, this one I would say is actually pretty good, but unfortunately because of NetherRealm and their fucking Tournament Edition fight sticks, go on Google right now and look up Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition and see what comes up first. My ideal lineup, before I move on to the final section, of this so-called Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, which I still think is a cash grab, by the way. That I'm definitely not changing my mind on that. This would be my ideal lineup. Just going off of what was included in this version. Okay, so instead of having the Game Gear version of Mortal Kombat 1, not that one, you get the Sega Master System version. You would also have the Game Boy and the Sega Master System versions again for Mortal Kombat 3, and also having it for Mortal Kombat 2. I know that the 32X version is kind of liked because the sound quality is almost as good as the arcade version. And also for Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, of course, you would have the Genesis version of that game because it's interesting, I guess. And also have Mortal Kombat Advance bundled up with this. It's essentially the same game, really. I don't consider it any more different than the others. I would say include Ultimate Mortal Kombat on the Nintendo DS, but it is honestly kind of redundant since it's meant to be an arcade collection. And having a game that is almost essentially arcade perfect on the go, besides having the bells and whistles that come with it, would be absolutely redundant. I mean, it already has online play. It'll probably have look at bios, unlock endings and shit, and I assume you would be able to access the treasure rooms. Don't even go through the entirety of the arcade mode or whatever, but whatever. It's also a pretty good version of the game, so I highly recommend you Nintendo DS enthusiasts to have it in your collection, legal or otherwise. Of course, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, but we're going to talk about that in a second. And of course, with Mortal Kombat 4, of course, having the PC port of the game. And yes, it was a PC port of the game. It's probably the most perfect version of the game because PC master race, don't you know? And of course, the Game Boy Color version of the game, even if it is really shitty, but Game Boy Color Fatalities, I guess, so it's kind of cool. And of course, Mortal Kombat Gold. And they really should have had Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance and Tournament Edition being like super special secret unlocks to tease a next collection, whatever. I mean, these games have done that sort of thing before. Now, I'm going to go over some of the comments that I got. Now, surprisingly, they weren't as obnoxious as I thought they would be, but there are some things I do want to point out on some of them. But before we get into that, I want to add this section. Mortal Kombat 1 is basically dead. That is true, but it's also getting a complete edition, which is, as Mr. Machiavelli says, just wait for the complete edition, there you go. I highly doubt the DLC is going to be on disc, but at least I can rest easy knowing that NetherRealm decided to bite the bullet. I'm sorry, not bite the bullet. Take the bullet, one in the chamber, single action cult action army. I probably said that wrong. Ocelot's favorite weapon for an obvious reason. 6 bullets, more than enough to kill anything that moves, yada yada yada, blah blah blah, dribble, dribble, dribble. Maybe if it has the DLC on disc, and if I can actually find it at my local secondhand retro gaming store, I'll take the advice from Heavy Metal Gamer. I'll go get rid of that version, then go get the real Mortal Kombat one. And not that one, unfortunately. Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis is one of my favorite games of all time. Okay, Adam. You can sit down. Ed Boon and John Tobias being together in that commercial or advertisement, whatever. Yes, it's nice to see because they were essentially the creators of Mortal Kombat. But I'm sorry, Ed. You have put yourself knee-deep in the dead, and it's not a Doom reference, I swear, into basically ruining your series that is Mortal Kombat. I used to love Mortal Kombat, and even though Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe was kind of a piece of shit because of the fatalities and shit, it wasn't as damning as what would follow in Mortal Kombat 2011. I've grown up, and honestly, even after watching Fourth Snake's video on the story and shit, it's just fucking terrible. And you ruined it with Mortal Kombat X 11 and 1. I love Mortal Kombat. I don't anymore. I'll still enjoy the older games, but that's it. I have no love or interest in these games anymore because of you, Ed. And stop being a fucking cock tease. I want to go over some of the comments I got. And like I said, the comments were actually not as disgusting or vile compared to what I've gotten with my Doom video, but I figured I would point out some nonetheless. And I'm going to start off one that I actually want to mention, actually. The King and I. Now, look, if you want to say my videos aren't constructive criticism, actually watch the fucking video first. That's all I'm saying. I don't do this for this negativity shit. This comment in particular kind of confuses me, being the whole lackluster compilations, that it's more of the biggest company fault compared to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection. I don't think they're going the distance with this one. They're already half-assing what games are being included initially. Like I said, love or hate Mortal Kombat 3, you can't deny that those games are not getting the ports compared to Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. I am so tired of that energy that even back when Some Call Me Johnny reviewed Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, said it was peak Mortal Kombat gaming, but then everything changed when the Mortal Kombat 3 came out and took out Scorpion and the other characters, and then the fatalities were admittedly a bit of a downgrade, but I don't think Mortal Kombat 3 is in the same league as Resident Evil 3 Remake, but whatever. People are fucking retarded. Who cares? I need that because I don't want a PS3 anymore. I know I'm kind of paraphrasing, I'm an asshole. And I can't get those games emulated like MAME. I know nothing about installing emulators. Okay, if you don't know how to use MAME in 2025, that's honestly a fucking skill issue. I'm going to assume it's a dude, and if it's not, then well, come back next June and I'll tell you if I care or not. So fucked. This person is talking about Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection, which was in the PS3. I also had an Xbox 360 port, and it was also on PC as part of Games for Windows Live. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I have something else to add to this. I actually recently rewatched Total MK's video about the audio being terrible in Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection. There's also another point that Machiavelli actually mentioned to me, because I didn't really think of it, actually. What if this version of the game ends up having a lot of discrepancies in both audio and gameplay departments? That wouldn't be good. Also, I needed a Sonic the Hedgehog 3 port on modern systems so that I don't have to keep playing the Genesis versions, but Sonic Origins and its Pointless Plus versions is a piece of shit. And it's not just because it has the music from Sonic & Knuckles collection on PC. I could care less, or couldn't care less, however it's grammatically correct, that they couldn't get Michael Jackson's music in there. Those games have problems, and I'm not gonna fucking deal with it. I can live and let learn, but This collection is fucking terrible, and this collection might be terrible. I don't want it to be terrible for the sake of actual fans who still want to stick around, but I don't know, man. The lineup is pretty not promising, but I guess people don't get that too. I don't know if this person was trying to be nice. I'm going to assume that they are, and it's also a relatively higher subscriber count, even though as of right now they haven't made much. I actually made a video recreating characters from Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat Armageddon. It's pretty sweet. This is like the one person that left a comment, and we kind of had a conversation for a bit. So, it's pretty good. But I couldn't tell if it was agreeing or disagreeing. Would rather have a collection of past Mortal Kombat games in the present, which I can agree with that too, but if this collection is going to be just as terrible as the others, I think people need to be reminded of how SNK handled their various compilations of Samurai Showdown and their other games, but I'll digress. Also, I hate to bring this up because this is technically fan projects and we're not supposed to compare them to the real deal, but the only decent Mortal Kombat project equivalent is Mortal Kombat Trilogy Extend, actually having fatalities that look like they were from the arcade era. But every other one is just so homogenized, copy-pasted bullshit that it physically hurts to watch. I know it's Mugen and whatever, but you can clearly tell the assets are just not as creative compared to Mortal Kombat Trilogy Extend. It's almost like Streets of Rage Remake, but slightly less homogenized, I guess. And I mentioned this is the same energy that back when the arcade collection was new, because at that time Mortal Kombat 2011 was just booming with positivity. Am I right, King? The other 4 question marks that Zoot also brought up, it could possibly be Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Mortal Kombat Gold, or whatever, and some other better Mortal Kombat games. Okay, like what other Mortal Kombat games could they possibly pull out of their ass? Legit, the only other Mortal Kombat game that might be there is Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, because number 1, people are screaming for a fucking modern-day adaptation of it, and number 2, it's supposed to be a legacy collection, meaning past Mortal Kombat games, not necessarily part of the 3D era or whatever. Not that it's neglected, it's just, it's the legacy's turn or whatever. Honestly, including Mortal Kombat 9, not even bother thinking so hard about it. In Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, if they have to include it, at least make Dark Khan playable, and at least have a fucking chapter select. I don't think it'd be that hard to incorporate, but I'm pretty sure it would be, because Wood is remaking games for modern audience. Am I right, folks? And there's also videos on YouTube showing Dark Khan perfectly playable, but yet Ed Boon never allowed people to do such a thing. I don't expect him to go back to a game whose source code is already lost more than that of Ninja Gaiden, but at least make Dark Khan playable. That's like the one thing I would like to see. Besides having playable bosses in these versions and even a practice mode or whatever. Even if they are like lazy about it, like with fucking the Killer Instinct or whatever compilations exist nowadays. Just a fucking actual practice mode, and I'll be fucking happy. I would only assume that the only other game that they would be teasing is Shaolin Monks, because it's part of that classic era, even though that game is pretty notorious for having a good number of retcons. But mature gameplay, so I guess it's good. And also this part of the conversation, which I heavily disagree with. What makes you think they're going to censor those classic games in this collection? They're not going to censor these games. They'll have to do so much work. It's almost as if these collections never get censored in any capacity. No, sir. These classic games, they may contain themes and settings that were not okay then and not okay now. This fucking Looney Tunes bullshit that just makes me fucking annoyed. They're gonna probably censor in some capacity. I also like how, the 3D era might get censored in some way. Like, what? Making the blood permanently disabled? I hate to bring up the fucking condom again, but I know that he made a video talking about a no blood option or whatever. I don't fully remember, nor do I care, but the only reason they chose to say with the blood is because of YouTube. You can blame YouTube for being fucking mentally flame retardant. But also, even if you were to turn off the blood in the Mortal Kombat games are actually good, it doesn't take away how actually fun and engaging the games were, even though the fucking AI in the arcade games are notorious bullshit. Even playing Mortal Kombat Trilogy with the blood off, I still very much enjoy it, regardless of the fact. It just means I don't see the blood splatters every time I do an uppercut or a roundhouse kick. Big fucking deal. Now, if it was forced on, Now, that'll be a problem, but there's a thing called choice. And to protect my ass from YouTube, because they're a bunch of communist fuckers. This is another comment that I got that just makes no fucking sense to me. I mean, this isn't just going to be ROMs on a disc. Digital Eclipse releases are basically museums. Okay, please tell me what fucking museum would not include Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Mortal Kombat Gold, and even the other versions of Mortal Kombat 3. It's fucking stupid. I get what this person is saying, like, this isn't just Mortal Kombat with ROMs and shit, like how Nintendo did it back when they legitimately sold Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii, but it's just a fucking Super Nintendo ROM. This collection and lineup of games is not impressive to me. Psyched about behind-the-scene footage and other info they're including this release. They've already done this with plenty of other games before. Hell, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance had basically like a little short FMV about the history of Mortal Kombat, and you'd have to buy some bullshit version like Doom 3. I'm actually shocked. But come on. Like, what other info is this collection going to have that isn't seen anywhere else? I know that they're including an option to apparently make the Ed J. Boon menu available, which is partially due to the fact that it was already uncovered, and I'm gonna guess that Digital Eclipse is using similar coding to make it available for people. As much as I hate to say it, the only game in the series that might make it worthwhile is in Mortal Kombat 3, because you can basically unlock Smoke easier. And also in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, we can unlock the other 3 characters, and you can also lock them for whatever reason. Which I guess it kind of makes sense, since the stage rotation is honestly fucked with it. And also in certain versions of the game, you get this. It's just fucking disgusting. You're going to have the thing, like with Mortal Kombat 2 and Super Nintendo, we get 15 seconds to do a fake tilly, and yes, I'm saying fake tilly because people don't know how to fucking spell or read. Whatever. So my old brain doesn't even need a moves list. So what? It's gonna be like in Mortal Kombat DS, where it has the move list on the bottom of the screen, and even then it was kind of dumb because it didn't include all the moves. I'm all for easier, more fun versions. A cash grab would have been a lot less that this is going to have, in my opinion. I'm not entirely sure what gameplay features are going to be there besides what this person mentioned, but as I said once again, the lineup of games, the noticeable lack of Mortal Kombat Trilogy and Mortal Kombat Gold, games that should be on modern collections if we're going to have another Mortal Kombat collection that's actually going to be better than what Arcade Collection was, not just from a promise to be an HD version of the game, but also having a pretty bad discrepancy levels of what would make Midway Arcade Treasures blush, if you want to go back to that shit. It's just pretty bad. So, yeah, of course the person did not respond, because either I was correct or they didn't want to argue with me, whatever, I don't really fucking care. This collection, it could be good. I want to be proven wrong. I don't like to make these videos for the sake of being negative, King. But I don't like to see these games being treated so poorly and then turn out to be poor anyway. That's just not good. That's not me being negative, you dummy. It's a game series I loved. I don't love them anymore. I mean, I'll still play Mortal Kombat 2011 in locals if I have to, whatever. Not like tournaments, like, you know, monthly hangouts and whatnot. But this shit, it's just so disrespectful to people who even love Mortal Kombat more than I do. Even Fourth Snake, as much as I don't like him anymore. Why should this collection have to be as shitty from my eyes, and then it's have to be even worse or whatever? I do know that what's being shown so far is not very good. That doesn't mean I need to keep my mouth shut about it. It could form a conversation piece in a way that I see fit. As in, I say what the fuck I want, and you can feel free to agree or disagree, but don't assume I'm just being negative for the sake of it. If anything, people are kind of being a little bit too optimistic in that they're going to include Mortal Kombat 9. And I think we have a reason as to why they can't include that shit. It's kind of your fault, to be honest, for wanting guest characters in Mortal Kombat. You ever heard of licensing? This collection, it could be good. It may not be good. But I do know what I said in this video stands. But this collection, if it turns to be pretty bad, there's going to be a lot of things to be saying in the next iteration. And that's all I'll have to say about that. I hope that this kind of clears the air. Now I'm going to go do other things. like screaming Mortal Kombat at the abyss. No, I'm not going back to the XCOM. Fuck that. I'd rather fucking stay here and just say nothing than deal with morons and idiots on the same league as what negativity is to kings. King of the castle, king of the castle. That's the vibes I get. King of the castle.